Hi, Colin. How are you?
Hey, oh, what a nice background.
Thank you. I got kicked out of my parents' house. Just kidding.
Where are you?
I'm at my parents' place. This is like a separate one, and because since I moved out of the house, I no longer have a room there, so I have to stay here. It's like we rent out this place for other people for their events.
Oh, nice. Where are you? Why are you? What are you doing there? Are you living with? Are you like back, living there?
Uh, for a few days only, since my cousin is back from the US and she's going here, so she wants me to be with her.
Ah,
Yeah.
nice. Well, it looks beautiful.
Thank you. Still, it's fairly new. Just this year, it's finished. So still a lot of renovation.
Very cool. So, how are you feeling? You mentioned that you weren't feeling great this past week.
It, yeah. Last in our last meeting, I was a little bit sneezy, and I don't know what is it, but I got a little bit scared because here in the Philippines, have you heard that there's an outbreak of like pertussis or whooping cough?
I've seen some headlines about whooping cough. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, I'm scared because like my boyfriend got sick first, and then I got sick, and it starts with fever and cold. So I was like, oh no. But yeah, it's I just have a little bit of like cough at times, but it's okay.
Um, Good. Well, at least you're feeling better.
It is, and it's crazy like this past weeks because I told you I've passed my papers for my visa, and then at the weekend it's Holy Week, right? And
Yeah.
I had to go back to my parents' house again last weekend, and we had to surprise my father for his 60th birthday celebration. So like it's a big party, and we had to organize it. So it's a crazy week happening. So yeah, I have
Um,
to really keep up with
yeah.
this week.
Did you submitted your paperwork for the visa, but you never heard anything, or how long does that process take?
Probably can be earliest 3 days, and then up to a month maybe at most maximum, and then yeah, they just have to bring back my passport and I'll know when I have my passport. So hoping for the best.
Um, yeah. Okay. Well,
Mm.
shall we dive in?
Yeah, sure. If you want. You don't have any news by yourself or you just wanted to dive in directly?
News. Let's see. I could always give some news. I feel like there's no this week. Well, what should I say? I My news is that for the last, like, since we've spoken, I guess, which has been about 3 months, I would say that my general feelings during that time are I live by the saying I don't like to count my chickens before they hatch. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and because of that, it's like just taking week by week. And I would say that in the last week, which is a very exciting time, is that like I've been in social situations, like talking about pursue networking, software, what I'm doing, and the feedback that I'm getting from people make me like objectively say that like things are hatching, because I've never really
Oh,
heard people giving me like I've been doing this a long time, and most of the time, people have told me that they thought that I don't know. They don't know what I'm talking about, honestly. Where they don't really like understand what I'm saying because they're not technical about the software, about LinkedIn, what we do together, or just the idea of me networking for other people as a service. People are always kind of confused by it, but lately, I don't know if you saw like this past week too. We kind of updated the homepage so it looks more presentable. The software is getting more presentable, so I am getting more presentable in explaining what I'm doing. So I've been in situations, even in this past week, where I'm talking to people who are very smart, like intellectual. Like one example was like an intellectual property lawyer that like I had a conversation with. Um, I'm part of this like little community, like a tech village that you could go like have like office hours with people to just get advice. And so I was always trying to stay away from some of the super sharp people because I usually fall on my face when I kind of pitch to them because they ask me very good questions that I feel like I'm not really like fully prepared for. That's part of the process, right? You never really feel like you really know what you're doing. Anyways, this past week I had a couple conversations with two different people, and both of them gave me such good compliments and also kind of said things about like how they thought that I was that pursue networking was going to be like a big success. And I'm thinking, sitting there to myself when this is happening, I'm like, no one's ever said that to me before. Like that, at least that I like respect. I was like, huh, like that's new. I've never heard that before. And they're like, yeah, I totally get it. Yeah, and giving me really good advice. So I would say that that's new. So April, I'm hoping now that we're kind of because that never really that's never happened before, and it just kind of happened the last week of March, and I feel like April now it's like hopefully more of that, and so I view it as like I like to say I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch, but like objectively speaking, they're kind of hatching. Like people are kind of complimenting me on understanding what I'm doing, which is totally new. For years, nobody understood what I was talking about. I just had to kind of ignore them and keep going. So it's exciting to have people be like, yeah, I get it.
It's fun to hear. Like, I personally feel like it's definitely hatching. I've been using the software, and I know it makes sense for sure because it's helpful that we organize people, and if it's helpful for me, it's going to be helpful for other people too, more so that they're catering for more. Because me, I'm just like I'm not even deep in it, and can we imagine like more people doing bigger networking? And so yeah, I can definitely see to myself the progress that you're doing.
I'm love to hear that, and it's great. And I've always like the thing is, I feel like I always had the reason I did this is I felt like I had specialized knowledge because I went to law school and I was a lawyer, but I was the right age where like I understood the power of social media, and so because of those two things, I kind of was like I know that LinkedIn is helpful for people. Like I would bet my life that LinkedIn is helpful and is going to be a success. And I feel like everybody has like some specialized knowledge where it might be like it doesn't have to be LinkedIn, it doesn't have to be social media. It's like something where it's like you know enough because you've exposed to it and you're the right age to be able to predict what it's going to be in like 5 years, like with absolute confidence because you have specialized knowledge. And that's kind of how I always felt like LinkedIn was for me. But whenever I would talk to people about it, I felt like they didn't see it. It was like crazy. Like I would talk to people and they would say, I don't like LinkedIn, I like Instagram. Or like I think Instagram or Facebook are better. And it's like, okay, but like LinkedIn's still good, right? They're like, no, I don't like it. I think that it's going to get disrupted. I was like, what? But no, I don't think so. And then I would ask engineers and I would try to be like, well, what if we tried to make LinkedIn better? And there was such pushback to say that they didn't think that LinkedIn was good, or they didn't really understand the sales side, or they didn't use LinkedIn, let's say, like I was using LinkedIn. Like DMing people, trying to create engagement, like doing sales. And so it's like people that were engineers didn't do sales, and then the people who did sales didn't know engineering. So the concept of trying to explain to either party how LinkedIn could be better was like nobody would listen to me. It was just no people would say they didn't see it. That was it. It was like they just didn't see it, which is why I kind of did it on my own. But to now get feedback from people that they see it because it's there, like you can see it, that they're like, oh, I get it. Yeah. Now all of a sudden, it's funny. It's like people say this all the time, but the hatching part of it, I think, is kind of part of that, where it's like, what people say. They love to say that like people are an overnight success. But the people who are experience it, it's like this has been going on for like 7 years. In my world, like in small ways, it's just started with some conversations and things like that. But really, like it's been at least like 5 to 7 years. And now that it's finally hatching, I could kind of see people be like, "Oh yeah, this could be like super successful." Like it's like, well, I've been screaming that for people for years, just nobody listened.
think, to be honest, like Instagram is just better in terms of like user interface or like experience, but the purpose wise and how much thing you can get from it, definitely in professional life, LinkedIn. I agree on that, even though I'm not a huge personal user of LinkedIn.
Yeah. Well, when I started this, my attitude I thought because I kind of saw that specialized knowledge and I felt like people were wrong or they didn't have the specialized knowledge. So all those people like like the engineers didn't understand this like what I was doing to get the results on LinkedIn. So they didn't understand the sales challenges, and then the salespeople think that engineering is like wizardry. So it's like you can't have like a technical conversation with the salespeople at all about like how you could bring list creation or point and click saving, like bring external databases. Like that was lost on the salespeople, and then the sales side was lost on the engineering side. And so I felt like I was crazy. Whereas like this was so obvious to me, but it was so not obvious to everybody else. So I feel like what I thought about that time because Instagram and Facebook were much more popular. I felt like if you're a business, because the world is actually coming on Instagram and Facebook and it's like the hot thing, it's going to make it harder to get results for businesses on that platform because everyone wants to like become an influencer. So it's more noise basically. Not saying that you can't get results on Instagram or Facebook for business, you totally can, but like it's more saturated. Whereas on LinkedIn, people don't know how to get results on LinkedIn, but the opportunity is like ripe to get results because people are it's a little bit more complicated, which is what we've kind of been going over in so many ways because you have to do project management. It's not quite like Instagram or Facebook where it's just like we'll just be entertaining. It's like you could do that on LinkedIn, but people aren't going to give you business because you're entertaining. So it's kind of you got to think through like a sales process. Like that's just the way business is and has always been. There's like wisdom in understanding the art of creating
Networking.
business. Building relationships with people is like is why we do business. So if you're gonna buy something from somebody, you got to get to know them. That's totally different than like building a community as an influencer. It's just different because those people are it's not like a business relationship, it's like a transactional relationship, which is perfect for Instagram and Facebook because you could create like a course or you could be like, I'm awesome, like, don't you want to be friends with me? And people will. They'll give you money because they do want to be friends with you. But like you can't do that type of marketing as a business to say, I have a great service. Don't you want to pay me? And it's like, well, what are you going to do for me? And understanding that interaction on the business side is what I think makes LinkedIn unique in the market because it gives tools to be able to create and nurture those relationships. And I feel like what we're doing with the software and then also our work together with Gary is figuring out how do you actually build software to make it easier for people to do the mechanics of the LinkedIn networking. Because like without the software, you could do it, but it's much more, it's not pleasurable, let's just say. Like you wouldn't enjoy this experience of doing it. You would look at it like a job. And hopefully with the software and stuff, it's like becomes a little bit more, you feel like you're giving value by just using the software.
So yeah, I think it's just right that we transition to like the me. Oh no no. I think it's best that I show the metrics first,
Yeah,
and
let's
then
do it.
later on talking about the software. I think the data are there in terms of like serious conversations or discover call booked.
Cool.
Sharing my screen. Homie. Uh, wait. Oh my gosh, my tabs are endless and infinite.
That's how I operate with like too many tabs that it's kind of like embarrassing.
I guess we've been there here
I actually think that
before.
that's more how creative people operate because when I look at my engineers, they are always making fun of me because they're more
Mhm.
like they don't operate that way. It's like they have like one or two tabs. Like for the software, I'm always like telling him that it's breaking for whatever reason, and he's always like, "Well, that's because you have literally 30 tabs open." He's like, "I haven't tested
I
it.
know.
I don't do that." And I'm like, "Well, that's how I work."
Well, so for our metrics, here's what I did. Hold on. Ah, I placed the number of the last two in February instead of March. Here, that's 5 and 1. So for I think the main difference was that last month I was not sure about the
Yeah.
serious conversations and bookings, or
Yep.
even now for the bookings, because maybe Gary booked someone, but I just browsed through the message and yeah.
That's fine.
Um,
And we'll get better at tracking numbers over time. But even the fact that you're thinking that there might have been a booking, and I think that you're right, there was at least one, or at least it looked like in the conversations that Gary got on a call with somebody. It's important to just know that it doesn't matter if it's one, two, three, four, but like our ability to know who he's meeting with helps us create like a follow-up process or at least an organization around organizing it for Gary to make sure that he just doesn't miss opportunities.
um, just a question, cause in terms of bookings, I'm curious because I saw something like it could be someone Gary already talked before, and in the pipeline it says discovery call booked or scheduled. When we mean that bookings, does it mean discovery call or any call in general? Would you like
Um,
to me to give you an example?
yeah, give me an example of what you know because I yeah, give me an example.
There are already chickens sound as I'm here. I think this is. I cannot scroll past this. Maybe it's laggy because I have so many tabs open.
Probably.
Janice, that's Janice for sure.
Um,
This one.
yeah. Well, Janice is a particular case where he's actually has worked with Janice in the past, and he's trying to bring her
Mhm.
on to work with him again in Instinctive, like in July. So like it's not really part of like Janice is not really part of our sales workflow
Mhm.
because it's I would classify as like a boom, right? It's like someone he like already knows or has
How
relationship
does
with.
it classify the boom?
Yeah, I just view it more as like somebody that they already have like you have like a relationship with, right? Like I'm not like at a certain point when you know somebody, you've done business with them, you have a relationship with them. To me, that's like a boom, right? You got a client, like it's not part of your sales process. At a certain point, you got to like get people out of sales and into your network, like actually not necessarily your LinkedIn network of thousands of people, but like you know people. Like if I you would be a boom for me. I'm not gonna like do the stuff that we do for the rest of our life on LinkedIn, right? So if
Mhm.
I was trying to organize you, I would classify you as more as like a boom. We've worked together, you know me, we have like a relationship. So I'm not trying to sell you anything is kind of the idea.
Mhm. Okay. So I didn't also classify her in the bookings. So I'm just curious about that. So yeah, in terms of the connections, we for the past month we gathered 36 connections. I think the last one, if we compare it, that's 21.
Yep.
And although we do have less followers to the page, last month that was 23. Now we only have 10 followers to the page.
How many did we have last time
And
to the
for
page? To the company page?
23,
Okay. So why do you
20,
think that number went down?
and now mhm, that one went down. And for the
Why
impressions,
why do you think that
last month,
that number went down?
particularly because last month I did a lot of invitations, and then the people that you're going to invite are the connections, right? Gary's connections, and we sort of run out of these people to invite. So that's also part of it.
Um, okay, that's fine. So let me ask you this. Of those 36 people that were added to the network, what would you say is the number that we have requested to follow the company page?
Oh, actually, I'm quite familiar with most of them.
So how many that's fine, but how many of those people have we sent connection requests to the company page?
I'm sorry.
Of
Like for
of
example, this 36
Yeah, of those 36
people who
people,
are
have do you send them ask them to follow the company page?
not particularly,
Do you think
but
I'm curious if we
mhm.
predict ahead for April, right? So in March you were able to get 10. So remember like the whole goal of influencing metrics is about messaging and positioning and taking action. So
Mhm.
taking actions allows us to be a little bit more strategic about how to influence the numbers. So what you just said is the reason that you thought that the number went down from February to March is because you kind of ran out of people to think about who to do it with. So what I'm saying is that if you think through your workflow of as people are connecting, like maybe within that first week or two, I'm not saying you have to do it immediately, but using
Yeah.
those people as the prospects to get the company page, I would be curious about what's our conversion rate around getting people to be added to the network and then also getting them to follow the company page. Because if we got them to follow the Gary or at least connect with Gary, now we have an opportunity to control the messaging and positioning and influence our metrics to, I don't know, get a lot higher because 23 was a lot higher than 10. That was a 130% decrease in the numbers. Okay, but you know, do you see how strategic action of thinking through when somebody comes in and you already know that that person is an A or B, and you know that that person now is active on LinkedIn, and you know that they know Gary, it seems to be that you could influence the conversion rate to also try to see if those people want to follow the company page by being proactive.
Mhm. Okay, it makes a lot of sense, and I'll definitely do that for this April data
And
that I
perfect.
have.
And do you even start seeing how, because this is like advanced LinkedIn networking? Because see, if you now make the decision to do that, it makes it so it's actually easier for you to get in and out of influencing the numbers, right? Because if we're trying to judge ourselves by how many you follow company page, like you could even spend less time on it. Because if you're saying that I couldn't find people, that to me is symbolic of either you had other things going on, which might have been the case, or you spent too much time doing the wrong thing. I don't know where it falls, but like now you're like, wait a second. Okay, if you're gonna maintain the connections, right? Because you're doing prospecting and that number in the next month is going to be around that, maybe more. Okay, that is company page followers should be a metric that should be a lot higher in April if you are taking the right actions with the right messaging and positioning. You should be able to influence that a lot. Because why shouldn't those people also, why shouldn't that number be 36? I understand that that might be a stretch, but you would think that it should be at least in the closer to 20 is my gut if we take that action. But if you don't take the action, it the number kind of indicates that you didn't take the action.
I'll be sure to put that on my April workflow.
Cool.
Yeah, so in terms of impressions, this is for Gary's account. We did 1549 and
Okay.
this month with 1166. I think it was because your posts by February did a lot more impressions for sure.
So totally. So one thing that I want to add to our metrics that I want to start tracking, I didn't want to like go crazy, but I want to actually start tracking this for April is how many posts do we do?
Okay.
Right? Because
Uh,
we want to start figuring out what the balance is, and we should kind of have some understanding of like what you're saying, right? Like what's the right at least I understand that we could kind of then segment it into different types of posts, but we should at least track like, well, how many posts are we doing? And if that number increases a lot from March to April, because like we had spoken about, now it seems like we're going to try to post maybe something every day, at least those types of ChatGPT type posts. So we already know that we're going to kill it in April with the posting. So we want to start tracking that so we can kind of see if we post a lot, what's the ratio of what our impressions go up? Like, can we influence that number a lot more? Because you're saying it did go up, which is great, but you're also saying we didn't really post as much. So, okay, let's do the best we can this month. Let's post a lot. Let's keep track of how many times we post, and then what are the impressions associated with that. So we kind of have a general understanding for May of like what the sweet spot is.
and also, if I may add, the biggest, like the post that garnered the most impression was the video, first demo. And then after the second carousel, and this next one is the second demo.
Okay, so that stuff is good to know, especially because this is the month that I really want to get the social calendar going, planning with you. I want to be able to kind of give you copy like I did last time, and then you could kind of lay it out in Asana a little bit and start kind of like, helping execute the deployment of it. That way, this is kind of where I was like, okay, well, at that point, we could just invite Gary into Asana because, like, I don't want to be the middleman between explaining to him the social calendar, especially because I know him well enough, and I feel like you've now seen the videos of me and him speaking that he doesn't really care either, as long as we're trying to guide towards specific numbers.
Okay. So I'm just curious. I think what I would do personally is I would separate the workflow of the content and separate the other things so that it's much easier to see the calendar or what's going on in terms of content.
Yeah, I agree. I think that separating those out, even in tickets or like thinking about it separately, is definitely the reason I'm lumping it together for you is because, to be honest, I was just trying to get you to understand that the content helps you drive the engagement side. So it's like two different levers, but you're basically saying, why don't we separate out the levers? Because it'll help me think about it differently. Totally makes sense.
Okay. So yeah, in terms of profile views, 206 and February was 232. These two metrics are not too far with each other, but I think if you're going to this April, if you're going to post more of the content that you wrote, I think we can do a lot better in terms of these two things. In terms of serious conversations, I will show the dashboard here. Because I added this month, this one. That's why it's five, and there it was only four. I added this one, and those was four. Included here the people that, if you remember, talked about the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So I still consider them as serious conversation. Robert still is a very recent one. This is an inbound. I think this came. He's one of the person that I mentioned to you that you can talk about with Gary. And yeah, I think their call didn't push through, but Gary's pushing for another schedule again.
Okay.
And for talking replied, I put six and 21 on their LinkedIn campaign.
Okay.
So this is the current numbers for now. Yeah, so that's everything for the metrics so far for March. Any thoughts or additions?
I think overall that's a really good display. What I want to kind of see moving forward is starting this month, I would say the goal is to try to see if me and you, with Gary, kind of can get closer to real time. It's not we don't I don't mean real time in sense of like need to like that, but I mean real time in the sense of like how can we kind of be on top of this, 24 48 hours deal, like within a couple days, so we can be more of value to Gary in terms of making sure that we're pushing to get updates. I know that you kind of had put some stuff into the software, which is great. That's like a great start, but I want to kind of build towards working together. So like, for example, I could already tell like, because this is the problem that I'm trying to solve with the software and I want to like build towards it, is like, this is what happens where like, okay, Gary hires me to help him. I hire you to help me. You're in it more than I am. I go into the meeting, we pull it up. He wants to talk about the prospects. He actually gives me feedback of like what to say, but like me and you don't really meet till Tuesday, and I don't really, in what I used to do would be really on top of it, right? Or like immediately give you the file, right? You could watch it and then like we could kind of get on top of it. I've been kind of like pulling back just because, I care more about the organization and like, the metrics and doing this the right way. But since I thought that that was good, now I would say to try to challenge you is like, how do we get organized enough with Asana and then also the software to get to a place where I can invite Gary into it, because he understands that the reason that I'm not like as on top of it as maybe I used to be is because there's a lot of data. It's like, hard, and he knows that like I have help and like, so I see, for example, that I'll give you an example. And this is on me. This is not on you. You asked me to ask him about that. I think her name was like Jan Modi. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mod.
Yeah, Jane Mod. So he gave me the context around what that was, because you asked me, and it kind of seemed maybe they know each other or like what's going on. He told me on Thursday what it was. So how do I give that feedback back to you quicker so we respond like on Monday instead of Tuesday? Because I actually saw even in that when you opened up, I think he responded to her this morning. And the reason is because in his
Oh
head,
no,
did you do?
that was me. That was me.
Oh,
I tried. I was like, I'm like, I don't want to
okay. Well, so
like.
this is kind of what I'm saying. He gave me specific instructions on what to say, and you clearly, I don't know what you said, didn't probably say that because I haven't told you. yet, right?
Mm.
Look, he might not even notice. I'm sure what you said is not like bad, but see, this is what I'm saying when it comes to like the whole point of the software is to make it so we don't make these types of mistakes, which inevitably always happen. But like, I want to be able to build it so he could give us that context that we can move faster, and even if it does take a little bit of time. What did you say?
It was related to the one that we talked because we talked about this prospect last time, right?
Yeah, we did, but
And
I didn't know what the context was. When did you send it?
I
How long ago? 6:56 a.m. Um, can you just? Oh wait, thanks for interested. No. Can you delete it? Is that still possible? No, I think it's too long. So
would you share to me what Gary specifically said as an instruction?
yeah, this is a really good example for you to kind of learn too of how to help me do this.
Mhm.
Because so like what he told me and explained is that he's going to I forgot the date, like I have it in video, so like you're putting me on the spot to remember the exact thing, but he's going to that conference. I think it's on like April 14th or something. So he is in like some deck, whatever. That she has some information about Instinctive. She did inbound, so the context was like, sure, I'm happy to talk. I would love to, I have like a booth at this conference. So the play of what we were gonna do, and again, see like what you did, because remember, it's always about controlling your position and taking action, right? So the better you control your position, allows you to take an action that has a higher conversion rate,
Mhm.
because you're controlling yourself better. So in this situation, what I was told Gary, well, what Gary kind of requested to me, and like what we were going to do was we could start building some rapport to say like, I'm going to be at the booth. I would love to meet you at the meeting. You should come swing by, and
Mhm.
then we could also kind of like start even chatting up until that. So again, I'm not saying that what you said is bad, but you don't have as good messaging and positioning now because
Had more context about
we
it.
could have had more context and led with like a question that or like an action with copy that
Mhm.
would have gotten a different response than this. And now we have to like do more work to kind of think through, which we totally can. How do we send another one and say, you know, on second thought, also, I would love to meet you at this conference. Let me know if you want to chat about anything beforehand, something like that. He kind of said it out loud. I can give you the recording. To be honest, I didn't give you the recording because I was in time. I can't. I mean, I will. I always usually record it to kind of make it easy, so you can kind of grab copy because that's how I kind of work with him. But this is kind of what I'm saying, how I want to get better. We could start this in April. Is the way I see it is if we're organized in the software, it allows Gary to get in the software and participate. So part of the software thing is like right now, you've been sharing a lot with me through Gary, right? But that's going to make it inherently confusing for Gary when he gets in and there's like all of these DMs for people that he doesn't really know context wise. So one of the things that I was actually, we could do this now actually, because I think that this works now. If you open the extension on with Gary and then click on his face, there, yeah, and then enter email address and then type in your email, like whatever you are in the software. Yeah, do that. Okay, now check your email.
Oh, I think the last time that we were fixing
Yeah,
this,
we were fixing that. It didn't work. This is a good opportunity to just see if we could do it do it now.
what was it?
Um
Does it is it under Pursuit?
Yeah, well, just do like a new inbox, or it might be in your spam database request is kind of the um, thing, but it's a new one. That's not going to do it. Don't do that one. Don't click that. It's 13
Mhm.
days ago. Can you maybe go to your spam?
Not here. Not so far.
All right. Well, let's just wait like a second and see if it goes. That's something that I do want to get done this week, though. So if it doesn't happen now, we can do it after the call. That should work now. The idea being that then you can access Gary's data in your extension.
Uh,
And so, what I would love to get towards is your ability towards network as Gary, organize yourself, and then you can just use it with me. So, we could think about how to separate out our conversations of how to help Gary with using the software to service Gary, if that makes sense. Like, that's the distinction where it's like, you have access to his database, I have access to his database, and Gary has access to his database. You could send me people for Gary as you, have conversations with you so I can help you. And then we could together send things to Gary with questions. And chances are he probably won't see it, but we could start the process of onboarding because then I could just maybe take those questions to Slack. But what I'm trying to work with you on is how do we organize using the software with like what do we need from Gary when on like a follow up calendar and also kind of in like a list or something like that. So it's not just a matter of what you need from me, but what we both need from Gary.
okay. So in terms of like about that conversation with Judy, you don't have anything to do with it, or we can just follow up a little bit later to add more information.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would just want to critique you that I don't think that this is a good comment because you're not progressing. Remember, we've talked about that fact that, like, the goal of any opener or, like, anything, especially since you don't really know, to build rapport, is to progress toward an action. And your willingness to help with any questions is not progressing towards an action. Like you're not asking her to do anything, you're just stating a willingness to be helpful.
Mhm.
I feel like that goes without saying, considering she's the one that's reaching out to Gary. So like your the copy you wrote has the right sentiment, but it's not progressing toward the action, which is what makes us better than this, because this is something that like a client might say and I would be like, what's the point of that?
And like, and do you have any specific like lines that you would add in the end? Like in terms of like the actions that you're retaining?
Yeah, so the reason that I had to take this one to Gary was because of that question, right? Because when we reviewed it last time, the thing that I was uncertain about was what's the action that we're driving toward. That's exactly it. I
Mhm.
didn't know because it seems like there's context that's missing in my mind, right? Because she says stuff about this like summit that I have no idea what she's like. It's an inbound. Let me take a closer look. Closer look at what? I was like, you showed this to me, and it's like, oh, I gotta take this to Gary because it's like, what's the context I'm missing? I'm clearly missing something. And he explained it to me. So we want to use that context to drive towards the action. And to be honest, Gary told me the action. Basically, he's going to have a booth at this place, and they should sync up either before or at the event to talk about Instinctive, right? So that's the action. It's an in-person meeting is what we're driving towards, specifically at that place. So what I would say is you want to literally say that, right? That would be the action, is stating definitively that we would like an in-person meeting at that event to be able to, talk to you and learn about what you're doing. Now, the way that we phrase that, but that's the action. You're not progressing toward anything. You're just responding because of like a nervous energy around maybe not wanting to let it sit.
Mhm.
Which
So it could probably be just because I could have waited more and I could have had more context with
yeah,
it. So
you could have just
yeah.
waited for this meeting and I could have literally just shared the meeting with you and you would have had the context. But this is also what I want you to get good at. Like, there's no way that me or you should respond to this prospect because we don't know what the action is without Gary. Because of the context that Judy provided. And we see that it's basically arguably a serious conversation because it seems like they have things to discuss. So the fact that, even going over the metrics, I'm not looking for you to come each month with, 15 serious conversations. Like, we get like 5. But like over time, month over month, that 5 kind of becomes like 15, which means that we're managing like a sales pipeline for Gary. So the serious conversations is like the whole point of what we're trying to do. So the conversion rates around the serious conversations need to be like put on a mantle to make sure that we are, not like doing the best we can for those opportunities and organizing it for Gary. So this is actually a perfect example of what I'm saying that I would love for your help with is I get that March 22nd and not responding and it's like April 2nd is not a good look, right? It decreases our conversion rates. But there's a reason it takes that long sometimes when we're trying to do this organically with like multiple people across different time zones. That through me, basically, But what I had seen, and this is what I would just say to you, is that the conversion rates usually, I always like to, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. So if she's interested in talking to Gary, this isn't necessarily about like what we need to say and how, like, and doing it quickly. It's more about getting the action. Like, we want to get the conversion. That is the name of the game. Hold the conversion higher than the follow-up date. We want to get the conversion, and that aligns us better with Gary. But if you're focused on the date, then you're more aligned with your work than Gary's work. Because what's the difference? Today, tomorrow, yesterday. Like, I agree that we should go fast, but, I would say a better real-time goal would be like 24, 48 hours, 72 hours. Definitely within a week, because even if we don't use the software, we have meeting cadences. I haven't added you to it, but I'm in like a Slack with, like, Gary's in Slack. So I'm on a group chat. We can ask Gary questions. He does use Slack. He might not use the software so quickly, but this is why we have to organize things really well, because I view our service as the organizing, so we're not bombarding him with questions in Slack, because in the grand scheme of this, the reason he's paying us to do this is because he wants to manage his business. And I want to respect that by, bringing it to my meeting. And then also I'm hoping building software so he could go in on his own time. So, if he wants to different time zones, I get it. Like, if he wants to organize, at his night when you're sleeping and I'm sleeping, and like, he can do that, as long as it's really organized and we give him like a little recap. Hey, we updated the software, check out this list, or we have some questions, look at it whenever you can. And then we could try to build workflow into getting it done quicker.
Okay, got it. So
Oh, you did
for
this
that,
guy too. You did them all.
just these two, because I think we messaged them past a week already. So I'm
I
like
know, but see, that's what I'm
reaching.
saying. But God, this is better. I still feel like I could have improved this one though. But this one is not bad. I'm curious to see what he says. What I would say though is I think that you based off of his background and where we were at in the process, I would have broken this out,
Mhm.
created more touch points out of this. Because even look at it from the mirroring standpoint, he gave 2 sentences and you gave 2 paragraphs. One of the paragraphs is actually quite large too. So not saying that's bad, but it comes across potentially a little over eager. So one of the ways that I would change that is giving like a sentence or two and ask the question and not talk about the meeting, but get him.
Oh, because the last time that we talked about Scott was, I feel like we both agreed that this he may be like somewhat the same age as Gary, so it would be better to keep everything up. And since with the
I
context and
totally,
everything.
I totally agree. That's what I'm saying. It's not bad, right? I'm curious to see what he says. Like I
Mhm.
understand, but I'm just talking about like thinking through the workflow of because of those things. I would
Mhm.
actually say that we want to keep it. So, for example, I couldn't agree more. The void in HR is a critical challenge for business, one that we've dedicated ourselves at addressing and synced. Great. Now, this is the paragraph I feel like we could shorten because the first one, no problem.
Mhm.
So now
Mhm.
I'm keen to learn more about your experience and insights in this field as well. I'd be thrilled to connect further. Perhaps I would have maybe kept it at that. Because
Mhm.
now perhaps there might even be an opportunity for us to collaborate or share insights. That's now setting the agenda for the meeting before we've gotten confirmation that he wants the meeting.
Okay, got it.
Right? And
Yeah.
so it's like less is more. That like we're testing a hypothesis on like, can we get a meeting? We think we can, but we gotta ask. So I'm keen to learn more about your experience and insights in this field as well. I'd be thrilled to connect further. Boom, we've kept it about the agenda, more about what we want to learn about him. Like a key thing to understand about human psychology is you could almost assume that everybody's open to talking about themselves. The moment that you start saying that you want something out of it, perhaps there might be an opportunity for us to collaborate or share insights that could benefit both of our networks. That statement is revealing what we want out of it,
Mhm.
which I feel like at this moment is not necessary.
Okay, noted that.
So even that sentence, now again, I know I'm being nitpicky. That's why I read it. And it's like this is fine. Um, but to go back to mirroring, to go back to shortening, to be a little bit more precise, because it's like the way I like to think about it is like think of it like a sword. You want to make it really sharp. So the moment that you start asking multiple things, you're a little overwhelming. So like what you've done in those 3 sentences is you've stated that you want a meeting, you've spoken about what you want to get out of the meeting, and you asked him questions about scheduling, all in 3 sentences back to back to back. So what you're
Mhm.
doing is he can't really respond to you unless he really wants to answer you, right? Because you're asking for a lot in that. So you're increasing, I would imagine, the probability that he would just say, let me get to this later. And I like to
Okay.
remove that to when they read it, especially at this moment of building rapport, to think through how do you respond right now. So I'm always looking for a sure. Yes. Right? So I'm keen to learn more about your experience and insights in this field and be thrilled to connect further. Boom. Done. I hope that I get a sure. Now we can say, how about let's move to the scheduling, right? Because right now we're at Sirius and we want to get to discovery call scheduling, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you've kind of jumped the gun by moving the conversation to discovery call scheduling when I would have nurtured it a little bit more in the Sirius to kind of like deepened it. And it also then allows for an easier follow up because if you would have just kept it short, I'd be thrilled to connect further and you didn't hear back in like 4 or 5 days. It
Mm-hmm.
is more organic to follow up.
Right.
Yeah, and just be like, hey, just checking back in. I hope all is well. You open for a conversation, right? It's organic. But because you revealed all this, if you go back and follow up with him, one, you might want to wait longer now, see what he says. And then,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's like, what is he saying no to at that point? What are you going to say in the follow up, right? So I'm always like trying to cover my position for the assuming they're not going to respond to try to open it again naturally. And sometimes to do that, less is more.
Okay, okay. I'll have it noted. Um, so I think I only have another one prospect left. That's Tara.
Oh, yeah, I talked about with her too, to Gary.
Oh, really?
Yeah, did you already respond?
I did also. But it was because this person immediately revealed herself as well.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm like, I revealed my I reveal I'll reveal
What
also
did you say?
her. Um
Nope, that's bad too.
do you think it was the part of like the
why do you think that I think that it's bad?
it was first um the career coaching or something like that? This part because on the contact just I'm not sure if you read any she was asking us like, "Oh, I'm going to introduce myself, and you want my service in the future." It was like,
Yeah.
so talked about mirroring. So I'm like, okay, if you need my
Okay,
service too, here we are.
I hear you. So first of all, the fact that somebody inbound sent you like a 4 5 paragraphs with a PS
Mm-hmm.
demonstrates that there's a high probability, let's say, that they're using software like outreach software,
Mm-hmm.
like so it's somewhat automated.
Oh, by the
Um,
way, this is a person on my build list, so I've been following her for a while, and then I sent a connection request and I added the note, and that's why she sent thanks for connecting.
but I would imagine that it seems somewhat automated, that connection process, because she's automatically fulfilling your connections or whatever started the engagement. There's automation software, so it's like you could automate actions in the same way that I don't automate things because I like to train people to do things because the automations always sometimes create like somewhat awkward situations that a human with like conscious doesn't make. I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying that it seems like based off what she's doing, there's some automation of, for example, anytime you connect with somebody, automate message to, or like your follow up,
Oh,
right? So just like you do, but you would personalize it because I trained you. She's not doing that. She wrote something, and to be honest, this is how I started. If you're ever interested in how I started with LinkedIn, it was doing things kind of like Kara does, which was more long form copy, automating outreach and like connection. So I could go reach out. I was a man of one, right? So I would reach out to people, automate it. But what I found like I was just saying, is that sometimes it automates engagement, but like it doesn't help you control your position because that's how I discovered all this stuff. I was like, well, I started realizing that if I don't do that, I would get better, more serious conversations quicker by cutting through the noise because I care. So the reason that I'm telling you that that's bad is because I understand what you're saying. You're trying to mirror her, but I don't want you to mirror her. I want you to out network her. The way you out network her is when she hits you with a message too that's all about herself. Let's test her automation. Let's talk about herself. Let's continue the conversation. We want to talk about you. Tell me more.
Mm-hmm.
Do this, right? Because that means that if she's automating stuff, we want to get out of the automation. So we need her to respond manually. We want to get her to not send us paragraphs with a PS. But you're pitching.
Mm-hmm.
So you went straight to the pitch, which I understand. You're saying you mirrored her because she pitched, you pitched, and now you've fallen into the trap that most people do in LinkedIn, where you're both just talking at a wall with automations. Do you kind of see what most people do on LinkedIn? It's like she's automating things. She's gonna pitch. You're gonna pitch. Nobody's gonna respond, and then everyone's gonna be like, "Why doesn't LinkedIn work?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So for this instance, I would rather build the rapport and open rather because I was very curious how am I going to approach this with this type of message
Sure,
that she sent.
go up. I'll do this in real time with you. So like what I would have said. So can you just go back so I could see her what she said to you?
Okay.
Okay. Um,
Which part do you want me to stop?
let's
Because
start from the
it's so
beginning.
long.
Let me just read it quickly.
Okay.
Thanks for connecting. I love that you appreciate my content. You already know a bit about me from those, but I introduced myself to all. See, do you see how it's automated? Because she says, but I introduce myself to all my new connections to share a bit about what I do as an HR. So this is all automated. It's very obvious that she does this with everybody, which means that she might not even know who you are right now. So my goal is to make sure that she knows who Gary is. I'm going to out network
Okay.
her because I'm going to put her on the spot with a shorter message that's acknowledging, like thanking her for sharing all this information, love to learn more, have enjoyed your content, right? All the truth. But then we got to hit her with a question to see if she responds as a real human being. Because I'm not going to pitch to a bot. That's what you did. You clearly pitched to a bot. And then you're like, why doesn't they respond? It's probably because she got something on her phone. It's automated. And she's like, oh, my bot works. And then you're like pitching. And so you're creating the experience that everybody hates, not thinking about the fact that she pitched to you, you pitched to her, nothing happens. Okay, so our experience assisting to, okay, so she's talking about herself. This cycle often repeats as they move to new positions without addressing the underlying issues. Okay, keep going down. I'm passionate about helping others navigate these challenges. I'm looking for a relationship or needs a brand, resume, LinkedIn refresh. Please reach out for a complimentary consultation. Thank you for connecting. I look forward to supporting your career journey. Warm regards. Explore YouTube. Okay. So my methodology here would be, I'm definitely not pitching instinctive. I'm trying to see if I could go get her to bite on, like, is she a real person? Does she monitor this? Right? That would be my mindset. I understand that you can set up automations on LinkedIn. You also are fully aware that clearly other people, virtual assistants or things like that, might be in this. So, this isn't a real person. So it might be serious, but I would view it more as a talking reply because she was LinkedIn campaign. You totally found her. You got her talking reply. Great. Now we got to see if this is serious. So, scroll down. What did you say now? Okay. So what I'm trying to go for is short and sweet and ask her a specific question to see what happens, right? So a personalized question, because we want to see if she is actually active on LinkedIn. Great to connect and learn about your impactful work. I would even then say thanks for sharing, and I love to get to know all my new connections as well, right? Because now we're laying the foundation where we're mirroring her in terms of like she wants to connect with new connections. I want to connect with new connections. How can we actually not use bots to connect? So that's the way that I would kind of say it. And then the second paragraph is fine. I would I would get rid of the third paragraph, and then that would just be the question. So be like,
I was thinking something like, oh, how long? It's a good. I'll certainly keep services in mind. How long have you been in this thing or something?
that's fine. That's what I'm thinking too. But I'm trying to get a little bit more creative. That is gonna. What I would do is maybe stand out. To be honest, this is if I was in this situation, I would maybe even ask ChatGPT. I would like. I'm curious what ChatGPT would say if you gave that response, or you gave her Kara's response. You gave the first two paragraphs, and then told ChatGPT what would be a question that you would ask Kara that you think would get an engagement back, and see what ChatGPT says. The reason is because what you said. You know what? Can we do that? Do you have ChatGPT? I'm just curious. Do you have ChatGPT open? Is that I can do it if you want. If you just want to. But I don't know. Do you use ChatGPT at all when you do this?
So this one, which one you would send? Would like me to send?
Um, which one? I don't know what you. Oh, send me her.
Oh, sorry.
Send me in Slack Kara's message and Gary's message that you wrote.
Okay. Oh, that's good. Shared message.
Just you could just copy and paste. It doesn't matter if it's formatted. I can.
There you go. You received it?
Yeah, I did. Okay, I'm going to share my screen, and let's do this together and see how this goes. Okay, so I am going to use the model that I have created for Gary, which I know that you don't really have access to, but that's why I'm here to help. Okay. And I'm going to tell ChatGPT, I am networking on LinkedIn. I have an inbound message from someone named Kara. Here is her message. Now I need to respond to Kara. Here is the sample copy that I have for my response. I'm just going to take that part of it. What's a good question that I can ask Kara that will increase the likelihood that she will respond? That's not even bad. So what I would probably say as, I don't even care. That's fine, right? So we can do that. So I don't want all of this. Although the reason I don't want all of this is because I'm specifically trying to get out of the long bot stuff. Although that I understand that this might be good, but based off of what I know about LinkedIn and the fact that she's automating it, what I would do is I would say, Kara, great to connect and learn about your impactful work. I also appreciate the opportunity to connect with all my new connections, right? I'm laying the foundation for if she responds, it kind of makes it easier for us at a certain point, since both of us have acknowledged this, to maybe transition toward a conversation, like a networking call. So that is why I'm saying that. So as an HR professional, I see the value in career coaching and advancement resource. And then I can say, I'm curious to ask, what's not the most, what, because I want to simplify it for her. What's a common piece of advice you find yourself giving to high achievers facing career misalignment? Get rid of that. There.
Okay.
Right? So, and the reason I want you to kind of understand this is because if she doesn't respond to this, one, it demonstrates that she's not really managing her account. Two, it makes it really easy for us to follow up and make her look bad. Because it's like, she wrote us paragraphs and we are like trying, and she said she's trying to connect. So we're out networking her. Like, and then let's see what happens. We could build rapport toward driving toward a serious conversation, which is ultimately the goal here. We want to drive to, it's not really serious. It might arguably be serious, but like I feel like it's more talking replied serious. If she answers this and it's thoughtful, then we could say she might ask us a question back. If she's going to be a good networker, she might give us a thoughtful answer, which would be great. Now we're really engaged organically. And if she just says something like, whatever, be like, oh, that's great to hear. You have such great experience. I would love to see if we could set up a time to just say hello because we're new connections, right? Boom. It makes it, if she responds and then we ask that, do you see how we kind of backed her into like, how could she say no? Especially considering that we are being thoughtful in our reply. But like, do you see how this is a higher conversion rate than literally just start pitching? Like you just pitched and you gave the company page. So it's like all of these things, you revealed all of our hands. If you would have separated this out, built rapport, Gary had a meeting, then we could follow up and ask for a company page. These are the types of things that then you get into a rhythm where it's like you might have gotten a serious conversation, a booking, a company page follower. You hit all the metrics. You understand? But like you gotta be okay with kind of going slower to get that. I want you to kind of pride yourself on, if you found Kara, which is great, how do you convert Kara into a connection, a company page follower, a meeting, a serious conversation, all for that you created. and this is kind of how you do it. You're kind of playing networking game, and you could use ChatGPT, and it's like, you know, if Gary also sees that question, you got to think that Gary's like, oh, that's a good question. Gary might chime in depending on what she says, but like you created the thoughtful engagement that gives Gary the cover of it. Share your screen with me again. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Uh,
Got that whooping cough.
Hopefully not.
Okay, so I kind of want to show you one other thing. Can you click through to Kara's profile?
Okay.
Okay, now can you open the extension? And I'm just curious, can you scroll down in the extension? Scroll down? Okay. Nope, you went too high. See the messages field?
Here, this
Yeah.
part?
Okay, see it's blank? Okay, I want to show you something that I've never really showed you yet because I felt like I was waiting till you got here in this type of nuance. What I want you to do is to go now, click onto LinkedIn and open the message box on her profile where it says message. The button, the blue button underneath her profile. Yeah. Now I would want to just make this a little bit. Can you just scroll up? Scroll up to the top. Make sure it scrolled up all the way to the top. Yep. Okay. Now click the logo where you were before. Yeah. Click that. Okay. Now open the extension. Scroll down.
That's awesome.
So what I want you to kind of figure out how to get into rhythm. One, to make that work, you have to go to the profile because we need a refresh of the browser to match the ID with the message. So like you'll notice if you play with it on the other inbox, it does work, but like you got to be thoughtful of like telling the system which profile to grab from. So I always click through, scroll up, get all the messages. And then now you could save the messages to the prospect. So you can take the context off of LinkedIn and I have access to the message without going to the virtual machine. And we can kind of organize it so hopefully we could have more thoughtful conversations because I understand based off of what we just did, this is the type of work that I would love to be able to do with you off the meeting. We can do it on the meeting, but like you see, I use ChatGPT. There's no right or wrong way to answer it. It's all about how do we get more optimal conversion rates. And if me and you are kind of commenting back and forth on a comment, this is how we could do a little bit more play huddle play. I know that you shared the prospect with me, but you're not grabbing the messages. And it's fine. Obviously, I could go into the virtual machine, but our ability to kind of stay organized with the context and then comment on the record is another way that we could kind of interact with this.
Okay. That's very helpful for this part. And yeah, so far I've talked about all the prospect that I would like to open up today. I'm just curious, like the one that you've mentioned, the weekend post day, the copy.
Yeah. Do you have that open? I sent you like last week, that copy doc that I sent you.
Yep. It's in Slack. This one. This one?
Yeah. So Gary kind of just approved this with his green little copy. Like he just added that. So let's just start posting these. What I would do is, here's what I wanted to say to you is like, let's start this process where I'm going to create more of these. I'm going to send him another 5, right? He told me these are good, so now I want to hand them off to you and say, okay, well, like now how do you plan accordingly with what you want to do with the pre-approved copy? You know, yes, we could post it as Gary. You could take some of it and maybe create a carousel for the company page.
Oh, that's great.
I don't know the best way. I don't really want to dictate to you what to do. What I kind of want to do is to create 5. I actually asked Gary in the meeting. He didn't do it, but he said he was going to do it. Where I basically asked him if he would record himself talking. I gave him a bunch of questions that basically I got from ChatGPT about stuff. If he would just record himself answering the questions, so then I can infuse his answers with ChatGPT, because I feel like a lot of these are good about instinctive, but they lack depth. That's what I told him. I feel like because it's not real. Like we're just talking about like high level automation and HR stuff. At a certain point, it's going to get quite repetitive. So if I could use the models to do part instinctive, part, wisdom about like his career, and somewhat gather that, I think we can make these a lot better and create that workflow where, he could just record a couple like long videos. I'm not even going to use the video just to get the copy to give to ChatGPT to hopefully make these better and better. So he hasn't done that yet, but we have this week's supply. So I'm not saying that you have to necessarily post one a day. Start plotting it out in a calendar format of what we're going to post so we can get organized, I would say, in what we're aiming to do. My whole goal, and I would love to be able to do this week so we could start this process next week, is to know what we're going to post on Monday. So we're not doing this like on the week that like we're not trying to build the plane while we fly it. We need to be in cruise control while the week is happening and be working toward making improvements for the next week. Otherwise, this is it becomes too hard to keep Gary involved that way, which I think it's better for both of us if Gary is approving this stuff and at least is aware of what we're aiming to do. Because like his ability to understand what's going on in relation to like a calendar is, I think, important when it comes to LinkedIn community management. Even if he trusts us, there's no upside in us doing it in isolation. That's the way I feel. There's no upside. It's only upside if we're doing it so well and organizing it. So he's so like, he's not that he's going to review it, but he's capable of reviewing it and seeing what we're thinking.
Okay. And this doesn't necessarily need to be posted today, right?
No, it doesn't have to, but I would like to know it to that point, like when.
Because I
Tomorrow.
want to
Yeah. What I would say is this is you can post what I was thinking. I mean, you can play with it. Is like Gary's could just be text, and then we don't need to make it so pretty for Gary, because I actually feel like if we make it too pretty for Gary too often, it doesn't come off like he's like it's actually him. Whereas people don't know him, it's like maybe this guy's writing this stuff. But if you're always like, and then the company page one, yes, we can make pretty, we can make carousels, because like everybody kind of expects that that's probably an agency. But I feel like, we don't need to overthink it for just posting as him, especially just to get the profile views up, the impressions up, like all that stuff kind of matters.
I think for what this one I want to post it today. Knowing that so wait, especially at the beginning of the month, so we want to really show
Yeah.
off the metrics.
And we haven't posted in a while, so let's post one, and then I would say at that point, then you could take that and like turn it into a carousel, post on the company page, whenever. See how this one performs for like 24 hours, and then kind of we have another one ready to go. When do you want to post the next one? Do you want to post it immediately, or do you want to take 24 hours to then post to the company page? That assessment is what I would love for you to start plotting out. So the numbers of the impressions, the profile views can start to speak to you, because I feel like there's a pattern there where you'll start realizing that maybe like 2 or 3 a week at least from the company page, with maybe a certain amount that's maybe more, maybe it's 5 days a week on Gary with just text, like might lead to a huge uptick in profile views. But like, we gotta pick a path and just try like a strategy for a couple weeks and then see how the numbers are going. So I would really encourage you to, you did a great job with knowing your numbers from the last month, which was much better than the month prior. What I would really encourage you to think about is knowing your numbers like week to week. Not saying that you need to like have a formal presentation, but like waiting till the end of the month to kind of assess how things are doing is going to make it hard to make sense of the numbers versus just like seeing what you did through the week. That's kind of why I'm always like, I feel like the name of the game here is to be able to have like the weekly flow be execution based and then like planning for at least the next week. So you're not figuring out how to build it while you're flying, because it makes it really hard to do both of those things and then also think that you can influence the numbers. You're kind of just throwing things at a wall at that point. Mm-hmm. And there needs to be some purpose with like, no, I think this is the right strategy. And then, you know, let's see if that is the right strategy.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. And I'll post these things and plot out the calendar and yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, yes, it's very enlightening for this meeting for me, and I'm looking forward to have better and much better statistics for April. Hopefully April would be the breakthrough.
Things are hatching. Let's go with that.
Things are hatching.
We can both agree that I think that there's a lot of wisdom in not counting your chickens before they hatch. So I still feel like, you know, the fact that maybe the numbers aren't where we want them to be, or they're not exactly right yet, that's fine, but things are hatching. And so start thinking about how to count what's hatching. So you can at least have confidence. And I do believe that this month will be the month that we could start the process of reaching out for people for the software, like to try to build a group, which I think is going to be a game changer in the process a little bit. So more to come on that. And the reason I say that is because once we start doing that, and if we're successful, Gary's going to have to join the software. He's going to have no choice, which is fine. That's why I want to use the next week or two to start preparing the software for how me and you are working in it, how we're working with Gary in it. This way, we can start the process of actually giving it out to people and seeing how we could not just build his network, but also build a private network from his network.
Okay. Yeah. And anything else?
Nope, I think we're good. Yeah. All right. Well, I think this was a good meeting, and we will talk again next week.
Okay. Next week. Oh, I think I'll be around by Monday, but not too much time because I'm going to Boracay.
Going where?
Boracay, in island, Philippines.
Oh, nice. What are you doing there? Friends?
Chill vacation.
Cool.
Just a few vacation.
Okay, so what's your schedule? So I can kind of just know.
Just Monday. I will maybe I will be around Monday like quickly just to check everything because I don't want to miss anything on Monday. But on Tuesday I will be back. So it's okay. I will just go to Boracay by Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Okay, so you're going to be off on Monday
Tuesday.
and you'll be back on Tuesday. Okay, so are you available next Tuesday?
Yes, I am. It's
Okay.
just on Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, let's plan to meet next Tuesday and plan out the calendar. If you want me to post anything or just take the day off on Monday, doesn't matter. Let's just This is part of like the execution strategy. You should be
Right.
able to take time off, but that shouldn't, your time off shouldn't impact, not saying that this is, but it shouldn't impact like our posting calendar. I could always post, we could kind of think through that. So yeah, just let me know if you need anything from me, and otherwise I'll talk to you next Tuesday.
Okay, perfect.
Alright.
Thank you so much, Colin.
Yep.
Have a
Talk
great
to you
day.
soon. Bye.
Bye.